my best idea. Let's go. Let me share the stream. Abu Magui, Gui, Abu Magui, wanted me a new Abu Magui, Kuya. Alright, I've shared the stream and I've confirmed I'm on the right networking core here. Thank you very much to the returning people. For the new people, here's 4 pieces of information about me. 1. My government name is Chimoge Chijoke Ibe. 2. I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia. 3. I am currently in Atlanta, Georgia. And 4. My astrological sun sign is Capricorn. Let's go. So, today's anger segment. Anger. I come here to let out my anger, flex, and reach a goal. All the same thing. What am I doing? I just try to express something and also get to a certain point. Uh, you see, I feel like everything's in place, and I've registered viewers. Thank you very much. Every view is a blessing. I feel like everything's in place for me to enter a new era, and that's the era where I do not feel hopelessly handicapped. Or maybe a better way of saying that, I do not feel handicapped with little end in sight, okay? Because really, the only reason I'm not declaring an end to my health issue now is just because I don't yet have enough money to consistently get the food, herbs, and supplements, whatever you want to call them. I would argue that's all the same thing. But the food, herb, and supplements I need to be in tip-top shape, okay? Even over the past several days, I've had less food than optimal. And I'll just say it like that. So, I'm kind of flexing here. Please patronize my business. Again, you can buy things, you can subscribe, you can also donate. Please patronize my business to help me get the money I need for that. And then alongside that, once I get all that, my energy levels up where it needs to be. And I have enough of a handle on my workflow, to put it like that, that I'm not really worried about media company work. It's just about adding other work. And I already have the idea of how to add work that I set up myself. Okay, I'll announce that soon. I've made some announcements about that, but I'll make a bigger announcement soon. I feel like I'm in a good place. It's just still a little frustrating that I can't literally hit the end button and then fly. So that's basically what it is. And then one other thing I want to say related to that is I really want to play soccer again. I've been thinking a lot about my relationship with watching soccer. For me, obviously, playing is better than watching, but there are more opportunities to play than watch, and watching is still important to me. But I'm just trying to figure out the parameters, because obviously I find it best now that whenever I watch, I report on it, or at least have the option to report on it. For most of my life, I wasn't, and this is where I kind of debate, because I've been making posts online about soccer games I'd watched since like 2015. It's just, I didn't really think of it as work. I'll leave it at that. So that's there, but I do it in a much more conscious way now, so it feels different. Um, looking at that, the biggest thing I'm thinking about is watching full games. Because when I've really been thinking about it, if I have the wherewithal to watch a full game, which isn't, maybe that's not the best way to say it. I'll just say it like this. Whenever I want to watch a full game, which is really always, I want to be on the pitch, which is always. But obviously, like the vast majority of people, I don't have the opportunity, you know. Arsenal versus Atletico Madrid yesterday. Could have been on the pitch in theory, you know, but don't have the opportunity. Anyway, I'm just thinking about that and how to prioritize it. Because it's been a while since I've watched a full game. And it's weird because I have not necessarily had the extra money to afford to watch a full game. And I'm talking about online because watching in person is another thing. I've almost never done that. I've done it a couple times. It's a good experience. But, that's harder. Although obviously watching in person is better than watching remotely. But anyway, in terms of watching remotely, I haven't had the extra money to clearly be able to do that comfortably for a while. But I don't even really want to say that's the main reason I haven't done it. I've just been thinking about my overall workflow. I've had a lot going on. And kind of leave it at that for now. I'm kind of thinking out loud. Also, my ancestors have been talking to me about this, trying to get across the message. Thank you for the comment. Every comment is a blessing. I read comments at my discretion. Let me call in further support. Captain Nogoha. Ogoha. Yes. As Indonesian do. Yes. All my past lives come in. Yes. Anyway, let's see if I can anchor this anger segment. What are the four things? What's the leg that anchors this anger? Seeing one thing is I want food. Second thing, I want to play soccer. Should I break those things up? Third thing, I said I have a handle on my workflow. There's one next optimization I want to make. I think that's part of it. I need to think like this. What is the next optimization I need to make to my workflow? So there's one more I want to make. And I don't know what the fourth one is. Sansone Bakaka. Oh, Abu Sansone Bakaria. Abu Makaraka Sansone Ba. Sansone Bakaraka Kaka Kaka. Abu Makaraka Sansone Ba. Abu Makaraka Kaka Kaka. I am Destiny Kanua. What's the fourth one? Desire to play soccer. Desire to eat. What is it? I want to make another work optimization. Desire to further optimize my work. What's the fourth one? The fourth leg of this anger. Let's figure that out. Just turn off the camera for a second. Tell me if this makes the watching experience enjoyable. I do this every once in a while. Six viewers, six and better, and gray, so shoe, Aphrodite. Abu Mama deal her all her. Ka Abu Mama deal her kind of why. Ka Abu Mama deal her kike ka. Ka ha Abu Mama deal her. Abu Mama deal her naka wa. Abu Mama deal her wa 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 wa. Abu Magui Mona mi hendo wa. Abu Magui nekazanu ha. Abu Magui Mona beno ne ba ba ba. Abu Santo ne beze kaka. Abu Mezuara Kala ka. Abu Kala kana inkeze. Abu Kala wana meze no wa. Abu Mata Mata Madi yo ha. Abu Mata Mata Kike kaka. Abu Kala kano kaka. Abu Mapara Kala kano ha. Abu Mapara naman. You know what? I figured it out. The fourth leg is I want to get even better at talking to spirits. Yeah. Let me talk about that a bit. You see, I've studied communications with communicating with spirits extensively, both on a granular level and on a historical level. So let me say four things about that. One, on a historical level, there's no doubt that the vast majority of societies took communication with spirits for granted. So, in other words, the secularism we have today is odd. Two, if you even look at some of the places where secularism is supposedly most prevalent today, places like, the scientific world and also academia, most people in those worlds are still not atheists, right? And not even agnostic. What does that mean? They believe that at least one spiritual entity and or multiple exists, you see. So what does that mean? We can't assume that the impetus behind people's work that looks secular is actually secular. We can't assume that forms the basis of their whole metaphysics. All right, so that's two things. That's more general. Then specifically, three, I've just found that the more comfortable I am, and another way of saying this is the more naturally I act, the easier it is to communicate with spirits. There's a lot of people who believe they have to do something weird and uncomfortable and outside yourself to talk with spirits. I've found that that's not true. And this leads me into point four. It just seems to me, and this is zooming out a bit more, but I'm also mixing in personal experience. It just seems to me like a lot of people have communications with spirits, but they feel uncomfortable talking about them. So, because of that, it's hard to get collective data and it's hard to get a sense of what people really think and are feeling. So, because of that, there's a lot of deception in society. And along with that, people are holding on too tightly to information they got or think they got from spirits. So it's hard to even have discussions. So, that's something to think about. Yeah. But anyway, I want to use all that information and advance us. We need to get to a place where, one, people just evaluate spiritual information with the same level of logic, and that's the best way to say it. I think I've been trying to say that for a while, but that's the best way to say it. We need to get to a place where people evaluate spiritual information with the same level of logic that they evaluate physical information. And two, we need to do more collective tests of information that has a spiritual component. And I'll leave it at that. So yeah. But then zooming back to myself, I just want to improve my own communication. So I think I might do one more survey of, I could even do it now, at least the first one. One more survey of techniques I've seen for communicating with spirits and then see how I can advance it, especially because it's going to help me with stuff I want to do very soon. So let's even look at it. Let's see, ways to communicate with spirits. Let's start with the first stuff I saw, which is basically Catholicism as a child. What is communication with spirits there? You put your hands together and or shut your eyes. You say a prayer, either a natural one or one that is previously written, say like the Our Father, Hail Mary, and then it's a combination of hoping that that thing went somewhere and or seeing if you actually hear something. That's really all there is to it. There's not much more to say there. I won't say there's not depth there, but there's not much more to say there. I didn't find that method very good. So, that didn't feed me. Then let's see, just after Catholicism, let's do other forms of Christianity. So you have Protestantism that's similar to Catholicism. Let's just put that in the Catholicism bucket. It's basically the same thing. And I want to note Christianity is a cult, and all the subgroups within it are cults as well. And again, if you're a Christian, please don't take that as an insult. I'm just being very technical when I'm classifying them. And for the record, even though I don't approve of Christianity, one, not literally every single thing that is in Christianity is bad. That's basically impossible. Two, I don't dislike individual people just because they're Christian. I just don't approve of the practice of Christianity. Anyway, the whole point I'm making here is a lot of Protestant groups will say they're very different from Catholicism um, when they're not. And that's because they'll be looking at technicalities of belief. I'm talking more about practice, especially in terms of prayer. So if the prayer looks effectively the same as what Catholics are doing, I'm putting in the Catholic bin. Then let's look at Protestantism and evangelicalism, if you want to use different terms outside of Catholicism, stuff that has different forms of prayer. I've seen that. What is that? That very active, very loud, very emotive. I'll be honest. I just classify all that as hooting and hollering. So I think the only positive part about that is that they tend to allow people to at least release their emotions, and they tend to use deep drums. And forgive me if it sounds derogatory, but I'm not really a huge fan of that. The problem is those two elements are so crucial to prayer that without them, well, um, it's hard to see what you're doing. At the same time, if that's all you have, that is a form of hapoelele. So it's just not good enough. And I'll be honest, there's one time I went to like a Baptist church or something when I was a child. I found it to be overwhelming in a bad way. I couldn't even think. So that needs to be looked at. That was just too much. Anyway, um, and again, no disrespect to anyone who does it. I'm just saying it's not for me. Anyway, um, so from that's kind of what I know of Christianity. And again, I haven't seen as much of Orthodox Christianity. I know that's another big demarcation. What I've seen of it seems similar to Catholicism, but I don't want to make a hard declaration there because I've never been to an Orthodox church. I haven't seen that much of it. But anyway, um, what do I get from Christianity? Obviously, there's some power in the basic elements of prayer, like, you know, releasing emotion, emotive singing, deep drums. Okay, that all helps. But you need more than that. You need guidance. But I'll be honest, a lot of that was missing from my prayer life before, so that's something. But then you also just need to look at exactly what is being sung, and exactly what kind of drum beats are being used. I will say most of the stuff specifically I'd seen from the more emotive Protestant evangelical circles, it wasn't necessarily what I needed. It's just I could kind of look at that principle. Okay. For Catholic prayer, one valuable element of that I could say you can see is at least there's mental flexibility there, because overall in Catholicism it's not demanded that everyone have the exact same relationship with prayer. So this is what I mean. it's kind of accepted that some people will say, okay, I hear the word of God, and other people will be like, well, I don't really hear God, but whatever, it's just they encourage you to, and in some cases require you to undergo certain actions, but your inner life is kind of up to you. So that's valuable to think about. I'm a person who needs to know who I'm communicating with. And I'll leave it at that. But for most of my life, I couldn't hear anything anyway. So that's kind of what Christianity gave me. So what can I take from that? I think two things. One, because I preferred to do prayers like the Our Father and the Hail Mary when I was practicing Catholicism, right? To the extent I was. Again, you can debate to what extent I could be part of the stereotype. But anyway, I preferred to do those prayers. I need to somehow replicate what I'll call fast food prayer for myself, okay? Because obviously, when I get up here and I speak, this is emotive, this is free flowing prayer. But say, just for example's sake, I could get a recording of myself saying a prayer that I want to say all the time. Like, for example, Kabrinam Nogoha, expand forever my ancestors. If I got that going, okay, that helps just because it helps pepper the enemy, and then it could also spur my thought. Epere equensu, there we go. All right, that's something. Prayer that begins thought. Prayer characteristic of the one who begins thought. Okay. And then obviously if I get recorded drum beats and stuff, okay. That's a matter of technology. And then also if other people were able to pray with me, that's a big help as well. Anyway. Okay. So again, this is something I wanted to let people know. Ooh, I just saw the number 2222. That's very blessed. Yes. Just past the 22-minute, 22-second mark. Let's pray. Kabrinam Nogoha. Let's make 2 wishes. Every time you see 1111, that's a manifestation of Utar, Oshun, all of the Muadu, and the greatest man alive, as well as Eze, the leader. Let's pray. Let me make 2 wishes. So that's 2 manifestations of it. First, may we all get to know our ancestors. And second, may we remove crime from this world. Anyway, what I'm going to say is this. No matter how bad your beginning was, because I don't consider myself to have had a good beginning, no matter how bad your beginning was, if you're still around, it is valuable to look back at it. And you'll get something out of looking back at it, either because one, you'll find something good, you'll find one of the conciliatory elements, or B, the process of looking over it will spur your thought. And I'll leave it at that. And I want to emphasize, not everyone will be able to find the first one, because some beginnings are too bad. But at the very least, looking back at it will give you something. So anyway, I hope what I just did was an example of that. So anyway. So then, outside of Christianity, what have I seen? Let's look at stuff that is more typically associated with so-called Eastern spirituality. Now, I want to be careful here. A lot of it is a stereotype, because you can find the elements of this outside of what is typically considered to be Asia. And I'm just saying it just because that's what it's considered to be. But, it's associated with that. But I just want to emphasize, I don't necessarily want to call this stuff from Eastern spirituality. I just want to, let me think of the best term for it. Just because I don't want to be too stereotypical here. You know what? Let me call it monastic spirituality. Let's call it monastic spirituality, because you can even find elements of this in Christianity. It's just, I was never in a monastery, so I didn't see it firsthand. But there's crossover. So let's go into it. The biggest thing is meditation. And I have to say, meditation's not for me. Kabru Naga. I want to be careful here. I know some people find meditation to be helpful, and I know there are many ways of defining meditation. It's just after trying it for at least over a year, really I was trying it a lot, and really in a way I was trying to try it. Let me say that because it was hard to get myself to do it. More evidence not for me. But really, during 2022 and 2023, I was trying that a lot. It just wasn't working. It was just frustrating for me. It's better for me to express outward when I pray. You know, meditation, you have to look internally a lot. Um, Not saying I don't examine my inner life, you know, apparently another name for the head of the god of thunder is inner life itself. You know, not saying I don't examine my inner life, but for me to do that, I have to stretch outward. So things like this live stream are helpful. Anyway, but I've heard of that. Meditation, not for me, but I know there are elements of it that a lot of people find helpful. Certainly, there's some powerful things to be studied there. In particular, there's research saying that monks who meditate, I've heard Buddhist monks, but I'm sure there are others, monks who meditate can alter their brain waves. So that's something to look into. And then if you look at the practice of, say, crossing one's feet when you meditate, I really don't do that. Really, I find things like, um, forgetting the name of the style, but if you sit down and cross your feet, that kind of thing, that motion I find is just not good for my physiology. I have to really squat or stand upright. Um, so I know a lot of people do that. That's not good for me, but that's some element of it. So anyway, let's reframe. My goal is to see things that I can incorporate when talking to spirits to enhance my communication and then also grow more. So for monastic spirituality, there's that. And then the big one is isolation. Isolation is not good for me. I've talked a bit about how I want to get to know more people, but one, I'm not 100% isolated. I'm not literally in my room all day. And two, again, I want to know more people. That this is really just a product of circumstance. So isolation not good for me, prayer wise. Now, I will say this, depending on the person, if you're isolated, you might hear spirits more, but that's kind of loaded. There could be many different things going on there. I would never just recommend someone be isolated. And I want to be clear, you can take time to yourself to think, but that's not the same as isolation. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, so there's monastic spirituality. Should I make this a leg? It looks like we should make this a leg. So the first leg was Christianity. What I take from that, and there's some overlap between these points of the leg. So the first point of the leg, again, I'll set it for Christianity. What I take from that I can use, I need epere quensu, and then also just to play, if possible, more drums and stuff in the background. Obviously, I already play percussion stuff myself. I typically have my rocket stuff, and even pound my chest. But you know, I need stuff that doesn't require me using my hands and voice, so then I can add to it. That's good. Monastic spirituality, another big thing to study. That's leg two. What can I take from that? Minimize isolation and extend outward as much as possible. Okay. Then three, I'm just going to be very crass and call it African spirituality. I really need to take some time and figure out what language I'm going to use when talking about the things that tend to get labeled African spirituality more, because I don't like using that category. Kabrunam Nogoha. Again, I want to make it clear. This is not because there's anything wrong with Africa or African people. Obviously not. I'm an African person, okay? Okay? Reference Point Village for my patrilineage, George Urata, right there in West Africa. Of course, you see me. I'm just saying that classification, unfortunately, is a racist classification. So we just need a better classification. It doesn't make sense to look at people who lived 1,000 years ago and didn't use that classification and then say, oh, what they're doing is African spirituality. I'll leave it at that. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, but with that being said, just because this is refinement here, this is starting to look a bit like the hand of God. I guess I need to do another one. But anyway, I think on another anger segment, I'll refine the African spirituality thing. That'll probably be the next one. So keep your eyes out for that. But anyway, I'm just gonna do the African spirituality thing together. That's just because that's how it tends to get presented. So let's see. So I read Things Fall Apart when I was young. And for the record, I probably read it too young. Probably should have read it when I was like high school age instead of elementary, middle school age. But anyway, I've read that book. I recommend people take a look at it. Obviously, it's a very famous book. So it shows elements of African spirituality there. And then I've just read various things online. And then I studied African spirituality in college as well. Obviously, I got a double major. At Harvard, they call it a concentration in English and African studies. So, I did look at African spirituality there. And then after that, I looked at it more. Obviously, the biggest thing I got from that is how to talk to my ancestors. And then on top of that, reincarnation. So that's really it. Really, I get angry a lot when I look back at my life in terms of spirituality because there's some very minor key things that are missing. Because looking back at the Christianity thing, I think I saw a lot of Epere Quensu, but it didn't get explained to me properly. So I don't think I was applying it in the best way for myself. And then there was just not much of the drum beats and stuff, which is very basic. But that is very good. That helps. Although it's like you're not even praying if you don't do that. And then I just want to emphasize, I don't like the way many groups will have only that or they'll blast out a bad version of that. But anyway, I'm missing that. And then the biggest thing, methods of how to talk to my ancestors. I'd heard of ancestral veneration, but I'd heard, how do I explain it? Basically, I just didn't have enough information to feel comfortable doing it myself. I'll just leave it like that. I've never thought calling upon one's ancestors in prayer was bad or anything. It's just a matter of not knowing the technique, really. And then because of the context I was raised in, there was no one I could ask about it. So that was really a failing of my family. And then, other elements of the environment I was in, which is sad. But anyway, the biggest thing, and then of course reincarnation goes along with that. Because my past lives helped me a lot. Because I'm also descended from my past lives. Most people are at least descended from some of their past lives. Because let me go into reincarnation a bit. Reincarnation, generally speaking, happens through the lineage, through one's bloodline. And that means not just one's gene pool. Obviously, you can reincarnate within your gene pool, but more generally, throughout one's lineage, what would call one's race or one's tribe, that wider group, that's where reincarnation tends to happen. But it's possible for reincarnation to happen outside of that. Like you can move from one race to another very easily. It just really depends on how much energy the ancestors and the collective spiritual group you're in have to move you, because it just takes more energy, but that can happen. But anyway, that's something to keep in mind. So, if you don't venerate your ancestors, it's hard to process reincarnation. I'll leave it at that because they're very linked together. Yes. Anyway, and also there've been actually academic studies, really scientific studies done on reincarnation. People who believe they reincarnated from other people, so you can check those out as well. So there's even more secular evidence for it, if you want to call it that. And then, of course, if you look at various spiritual groups, for lack of a better term, throughout the world, they talk about reincarnation a lot. Yeah. I think I'm going to re examine the information I have on reincarnation and try and present you guys with some sources. Yes. Anyway, that's the African spirituality leg of the whole leg. So we have 3 out of 4. What's the fourth category? You know what? I'll be honest. My study of animals has helped me a lot because animal archetyping has helped me a lot. That's really all I'll say. That's the fourth part of the leg because that one encompasses both looking at secular information about animals, um, and there's crossover here, of course. Spiritual information about animals, for lack of a better term, and then just my own observations. So that has helped me a lot. So what can I add? I mean, you know what? Maybe I just need to finally go through. Hmm. I think I could just take another look at animals I resonate with and animal archetypes and see what to do. A lot of it has to do with putting pictures up of animals. And I think I need to mix pictures of animals in this world and like cartoon pictures. That's really the biggest thing. Because the way these animals present out of this realm is also very relevant. I don't think I engage with that enough practically. And then just thinking about behaviors to model. Obviously, I'm not going to completely model my behavior on other categories of life. I still need to eat with people, but there's elements there. Anyway, so yeah, that's good. That's good, productive. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm done for now. Thank you very much. I think I've reached my goal. Let me give you guys 4 bonus pieces of information. 4 bonus pieces of information. So, first, look at the sun. Second, eat blueberry powder. Eat blueberry powder. It's good for your overall well being. Third, play soccer and record it. Play soccer and record it. That is divination. Everyone should do it. And fourth, I'm thinking of how to articulate it. Hug people that you have a romantic connection with. Hug people that you have a romantic connection with. It's good. So let me repeat them. 1, look at the sun. 2, eat blueberry powder. All right. 3, play soccer and record it. And 4, hug people that you have a romantic connection with. It's good. And that's all. Thank you very much. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please patronize my business. Chimoge here. See you next time. And again, the links to buy, subscribe, and donate to various things that are part of my business, and the donations really to my business itself are in my About section. And then I also have my GoFundMe. Check that out. Thank you very much. See you soon.